Okay, we are live, I guess, really. No, we're on the air for the Plone Podcast with Matthew Wilkes,
Hello.
longtime Plone lurker and doer. And I think you were a board member at one point too, weren't you?
I was a board member. Been a board member, foundation team member, security team member. I've done a few things.
So you're lazy, in other words.
Yeah. Oh, I've never hosted a conference.
Never. Oh, yeah. Isn't that the progression? You're a contributor of some sort, and then you're a team leader, and then you're a board member, and then you have to host a conference. Or is it the other way around?
Well, back in the day, it was you had to host the conference first, because if they got you to host the conference first, then you wouldn't know how much of a bad idea it was to sign yourself up to that pain. Right. I remember the first sprint I went to, Tarek had organized it in Paris. It was in 2008, I guess, because Alex Clark came, lately of Pillow fame, of course. And at the end of the sprint, he said, okay, right, well, I think I've got the idea now. So I know kind of what's expected of me organizing the conference sprint. And we all looked at him and said, you do realize that there's going to be like 10 times as many people at that one, right? It's like, what?
Why would you tell him such a thing?
It's like kicking a puppy, you know? It's... Yeah.
Yeah, and then the next year, DC conference with 350, maybe 400 people.
I think that was my first US Plone conference, and I don't know where I was staying, but the area of town, like people had been saying, you will definitely be murdered there. And you know, I take that with a pinch of salt, because like you always like people say that about foreign places they don't really know well. Oh, you'll be murdered there. But we were in this hotel and we went out to go to a convenience store to get something to drink. And as we were walking down the road, this like massive like Humvee type car, all black with blacked out windows, just started following us, like matching our speed at the side. And the window rolled down and this guy leans out and goes, "You guys lost?" I'm like, "No, we just going to the convenience store." I was like, "Okay, good." And then just drives off. I'm like, that was a really threatening way to be polite and helpful.
So was that police or some sort of...
No, it's just some guy.
Some guy.
Some guy with blacked out windows, which just makes you a bit nervous, you know? I don't know, are blacked out legal in the US? They're not legal here.
Yeah, it depends on the state. I think different states have different... Yeah. I mean, you know, California is crazy. I'm surprised they didn't have avocados on the hood.
What?
No, avocado. I don't know. People make fun of... Okay, I shouldn't say this on the...
Go on.
My intolerance is showing again. No, it's not mine. You know, the thing about avocado toast now?
Well, for millennials not being able to afford a house.
For millennials? Okay, I guess I'm out of the picture. I assumed it was anti-Californian feeling again.
No, I've only heard it as millennials. I did find out today, I think, that the word avocado is from a Nahuatl word meaning testicles.
Great. So now we're going to have to edit this thing. Thanks.
You can't say testicles on a podcast.
You just did it again.
Say more than that.
Okay. You wanted to fight. I'm bringing the fight to you, buddy.
Okay.
All right. I'm going to start it gently.
Okay. Important soft ripened cheese, Camembert. Right.
Made in Canada, so it's with pasteurized milk, so it's not that good. It's pretty mild. I mean, for Camembert, it's milder than the real Brie. And then, all right, you ready?
Yeah.
Okay, I've eaten part of this.
How?
It even says York. See?
Yeah, what's York got to do with cheddar? And what's white cheddar?
Right. Well, cheddar without dye.
Why would you dye cheddar?
Because I think people here are conditioned to believe that cheddar should be yellow or orange.
Okay.
All right. All right. You ready?
Yeah.
Hold your britches. Are you buckled in?
Cold packed cheese food. Yeah, classic. So, you know those American cheese slices
Yes.
on burgers?
The prepackaged slices, yes.
Yeah. So here, at least they used to be when I was a student and when I would consider buying such a thing for barbecue. They were called American style cheese flavored slice. It's not actually claiming to be food at any point in that.
I suppose if you wanted to be really pedantic about it.
Okay, so cheese for a burger. I love Jarlsberg personally. Swiss style cheese, but Norwegian. It took me probably about 4 or 5 months of working for Jan to realize that they were headquartered in the area that used to be called Jarlsberg, and they had not built a cheese museum. You could not buy this cheese. Like there was no like museum, there was no like history center, there was no like signs or anything. It was just a normal cheese, but it's their local one, and no one mentioned it.
I never knew how to pronounce the company name.
Well, I mean, I might have it wrong, but I believe it's Jan.
I thought it would be because, it's Norwegian, but then I could swear Martin Espelli had called it Jarn or something.
Yeah, I think a lot of Norwegians will adjust pronunciations for an English-speaking audience. I know lots of Norwegians who do that with their own names, for example.
Right.
Which is difficult because it means it's hard to know if you're pronouncing it correctly because they'll never tell you. They'll say, "Oh yeah, that's fine."
And in the back, they're kind of cursing you for mispronouncing it.
I don't know. I mean, they never seem to, but they just don't seem to care. I think they're just used to the fact that no one's going to get it right, so they think, well, whatever.
So they were located in the Jarlsberg.
Yes, in Tonsberg, which if you ever play Sid Meier's Civilization and you play as Norway, that's the first city you found. It's one of the oldest cities in Norway. I think it was from about the 11th century it was founded. Well, it was an 11th century castle there, or remains of an 11th century castle.
So a little older than Oshkosh.
Hello. Well, and it's like a touristy town now. There's a harbour that in the summer it's always full of fancy looking boats with sheepskins and things and really rich Norwegians sitting around drinking champagne.
Sounds terrible.
But it's an expensive place to be in the summer. Well, Norway
are you
in general.
still in touch with Geir and is it Jorgis?
Not really. I haven't spoken to him in years, but I did see that was it Jorgis has just left Krypho? Yeah.
Krypho? See, I don't even know how to pronounce that name. Okay, secure chat. CRYPHO.com, right? Just put a plug in there.
I think so, yeah.
Yeah. So in case anybody watching this or listening to this doesn't know, Matthew and I have a long running, shank fight about cheese. And I don't know why, because I'm not even from here. And yet you put me in the position of defending Wisconsin's cheese honor.
No, you started this. Come on.
No, you did. You started because I remember we were at Bristol, at the conference in Bristol in 2014, and you sat across the table from me and you said something about, I have a problem with your cheese. And it was like, do you know, and you said, you know where the real cheddar is from? And it's like right around here.
Yeah.
Yeah, you remember saying that.
I remember saying the cheddars that they're there. I don't think I'd have just sat across you at the table and say, I have a problem with your cheese. Yeah. There were other things I would have used to start a fight, Exactly. And which was that, first Bristol or second Bristol?
The first. Oh no, second one, because 2010 was the first one. 2014. I didn't make it to the first one.
Well, that's interesting then, because I only went to like one social event at the second one. I didn't go to any of the conference.
Oh, you didn't? Well, you were at that dinner, I'm sure, because I wouldn't make this up.
I would have been at a dinner, yeah, but
I wouldn't make this up.
No, of course not. And then in Tokyo, you introduced me as artisan cheesemaker.
Did I?
Yeah.
I don't remember that.
Yeah.
I'll deny that. No, actually, that does sound plausible.
Mm-hmm. which will have confused a lot of people because you did not explain this at that point. So for everyone who was new to the conference and didn't know you, it's just a very strange comment to make.
What did I introduce you for? You were giving a talk?
I was giving a talk, yeah.
What was it on?
GDPR compliance in Plone.
Oh, man, this is very timely. Yes.
Yeah. I didn't feel like I could go to the Tokyo conference without giving a talk. It would have felt too much like a holiday.
Yeah. I was trying to remember if you had been at that dinner. Okay. I probably should start all over again. All right. So I met Matthew at 2011 at the San Francisco conference.
San Francisco 2011, I think.
I don't remember having met you before, but by then you were like, I don't know, you had a great reputation already. I'd seen you around and I'd heard stuff you'd done. I'm sure it was all good stuff.
All lies, I'm sure.
You were a high profile person. And I remember we were going to Treasure Island where the party was being held and we were on the same bus going there. We'd rented a bus and I said, "Oh my gosh, are you Matthew Wilkes?" And we shook hands. I was like, oh my God. Yeah, that was cool. So how did you start with Plone?
So when I started university, about 2-3 weeks in, I saw an advert for people to play test a Flash game that a local company had made. So I thought, okay, well, I'll accept 50 quid to play a Flash game for a few hours. So I did that. And then from that they asked us for some bug reports, so I gave them some stuff. And it must have been decent enough that they said, well, do you want to test the website that goes with it as well? So okay. And then pretty quickly, it's, can you make the CSS changes? And within about 3 months, this is the thing called Zope that we use to make websites. Do you know Python? No? Okay, well, this is Python. Have at it. And it was probably about 6 months later that I did my first Plone project, which would have been a Plone 2.0 site for the same company.
Which university was that at?
That was University of Bristol. And the reason this company used Zope and Plone is because NetSite were just around the corner, and they said to the NetSite team, what should we use for making websites? And they said, use Zope and Plone. So they did.
Nice.
So it's all Matt Hamilton's fault, really.
Yeah. Wow. He's come a long way. Now he's hawking Bitcoin types of things.
Ooh, I think that's fighting words with Matt Hamilton. Ethereum, which is
accusing people of cheese crimes.
Yeah. I mean, Ethereum and Bitcoin, completely different things. Yeah. They're not both destroying the planet at all.
So that's how you started. And weren't you a Google Summer of Code student too?
No, I wasn't. I only actually did the mentoring on Summer of Code because I didn't find out about Summer of Code for the first time until I was no longer eligible. I started with that there was a thing called Google Highly Open Participation Contest, which later turned into GCI, Google Coding, which is aimed at high school students, and the tasks are on the order of a few hours rather than an entire summer. And the idea is you go onto the website, you claim a task, you do it, you return it, and you get a number of points. And you could then, if you got the highest number of points in your community you're contributing to, you win a prize, right? So I saw that it had been announced that Plone was part of this Google Highly Open Participation, one of 6 communities that was participating to begin with. So I thought, okay, I'll help out with that. I joined the chat room, and there were like 50 high school students saying, hey, can anyone help me? And no one from the Plone community. I was like, okay, right, I'll help them.
Wow.
And, Plone is a bureaucracy. Me doing that meant that all of the Google interface stuff was my responsibility forevermore. So I carried on with that. I couldn't go to the prize ceremony in California because I was graduating that day from university. But
see where your priorities lie.
Yeah, we did. We got mentioned on a US chat show for this. Whichever one Jay Leno hosted. Don't know what that would be called. Yeah. I mean,
No,
is that,
seriously, The Tonight Show?
yeah, probably Tonight with Jay Leno. Would that be it?
Yeah.
So the reason being, every community got to pick their grand prize winner, and the kid we chose had built like 20 themes for Plone 4. Like, it was the absolute machine. He'd done an amazing job, right? So we chose him, and the grand prize was a trip to California for you and a parent, staying at a hotel, tour of the Googleplex, all this kind of stuff, right? So there were kids from Russia, and there were kids from Poland, and I think there were like 3 kids from India as well. The kid we picked went to Mountain View High School. So that's why the Jay Leno Show picked it up, because a kid from Mountain View, California had won a trip to Mountain View, California.
Brilliant.
Yeah.
Did you do that on purpose?
I didn't know, because you didn't have the information about the kids when you pick them, because obviously they're not going to be like, yeah, oh, by the way, this kid, like this 13-year-old that you've been interacting with, he goes to this school and he does these things. Oh, they wouldn't tell you that, would they? Right. But they made up for it, so they ended up giving him a trip to London
nice.
As well. Because
do you know if he ever did anything more with Plone?
So I'm struggling to remember the guy's name. So this would have been like, I don't know, 2008 or so, I guess, maybe 2009. I don't know. And I feel like he did a little bit, but I think he did a different Summer of Code thing for a different community. And then he went on to do some other stuff in the industry. I think I'm connected to him on LinkedIn, but for the life of me, his name's escaping me right now.
Yeah, it would be cool to find out what he's done since.
Yeah.
See if he lived up to it.
So that's how I got involved in the Google stuff. And then that naturally flowed into Summer of Code. And I tried, I think, 3 times to give up Summer of Code, and like passed it on to someone else, and then they didn't do anything, and I got pulled back in. So then by the end of it, Chris Ewing took over, and he was enthusiastic, and I was completely burnt out. So everyone was like, Chris is doing a great job. I was like, I know, right? That's why I've been saying for years, someone else should be doing this.
Yeah, once you get that first sucker, printed on your forehead, I mean, it's that mark is there for a long time.
Absolutely.
It takes a lot of rubbing to get it off.
Yeah.
Yeah, Chris did it for a long time too.
Yeah.
And then I remember like we were getting like 5 projects done. Like we had one summer, we had 5 students. That was amazing.
Yeah.
And things got really busy, and then we didn't get any more. We had to get them through other foundations, I think.
Yeah, through Python generally, I think, wasn't it? Yeah, so it was interesting. You met all sorts of people at the events for that. I remember one time they always, except for the first year, they always put us in the same hotel, which is the Wild Palms in Mountain View, California. I think it was in Mountain View. No, Sunnyvale, California. And we just took over almost the entire hotel. There would always be like 1 or 2 families that weren't part of Summer of Code, and everyone else would be there. So it was a bit weird for them, I think. But I remember I was standing by the pool with a beer one day, and I get chatting to someone, and they say, well, what project do you work with? And I said, Plone. And she said, oh, I wrote your incorporation papers.
Wow.
And this is that kind of like random cross-pollination across open source was the kind of stuff you'd get at that conference, which was just lovely. That's
awesome.
The best bit about it.
Man, you've been to all the great parties back when they were really good.
The best bit about that one, right? They had an open bar, and I mean, it's always the best bit about a party, right? So I went up, and this one time I got in relatively late, and I got to the airport, and I got, what was it called? It was one of the shared ride vans. Can't remember which.
Oh, super shuttle.
Yeah, got a super shuttle.
Yeah.
And I got in, and I just immediately fell asleep on the back seat. And I woke up 45 minutes later, and we were still in the airport because the guy had thought, well, he's asleep. I'm just going to wait to see if I can get some more fares. So I was exhausted. Got down to the hotel when it was, I don't know, probably about 10:15 in the evening. dropped my stuff off in the room. I thought, okay, I'm going to go out and see if I can like get a beer and cool down and just try and feel a bit more human. So I went up to the bar, and they had this like big fridge that had got probably half full of Sierra Nevada beers. I was like, okay, yeah, that'll do. I was looking around, and they had another fridge with some bottles in it that I didn't recognize. I was like, okay. And then around the corner, there was another big, like full-size fridge that had lots of cans in it, but there are lots of bottles in it. You couldn't really see what it was. And I was trying to look and just couldn't see it. So I ended up walking around the side of the bar to have a look. And it was an almost complete fridge of Pliny the Younger, which is like the third, fourth best beer in the world, according to lots of people. And they just got a load of it in. But because it was out of sight, no one was ordering it. So I got absolutely destroyed on world-class beer for free at Google's expense. It was wonderful. Best part of the weekend.
How is it that I've never heard of this beer before? Obviously, I have poor taste in beer. Don't say yes.
No. Well, you can't really get it outside California.
Okay. I feel better. It's kind of like New Glarus beer. Can't sell it. They won't sell it outside of Wisconsin.
So the only time I've had it outside of California was at a brewery in Belgium, because they were doing a collaboration thing with that brewery, and they'd flown over a load of it and had it there.
Wow.
So I don't know if it's Pliny or Pliny.
I'm not Latin. Actually, I was just reading about the guy because what he wrote the record of what happened to Vesuvius. It was his father who was like an admiral or something.
Yeah, that sounds familiar.
Uncle. Yeah. So you've been to Sorrento also?
I've not been to Sorrento, no.
Oh, right. I thought that would have been
it's lovely. Nice.
Yes, it's wonderful.
Yes. Now, the two planned events I've been to in Italy were the Naples conference, where I spent an inordinate amount of time trying to get a cup of tea. And the recent one, Ferrara.
Yeah, I'm trying to remember did we hang out in Ferrara? Jeez, it's not really coming back to me.
There was a strip of bars, and I was outside one of those for quite a lot of the time.
We walked along a lot of narrow alleyways.
Yeah. Home away from home for you.
Yeah, I've been accused of not having a great memory, but there are some things that stand out for me. Like, okay, so we were in Barcelona. I believe it was Barcelona. And we were hanging out in your hotel room, and you were telling some really interesting stories. And that was probably before or after we were watching Eurovision. I don't remember.
Was this about the San Francisco conference, maybe? I don't know.
Probably. Were you there when were you at the 60 House when the police were called?
No, I just left.
Yes, that's your alibi.
Hang on. No, I just left in DC.
Oh, DC. They got
at the San Francisco conference, I wasn't even aware that the police came to that.
Yeah, most people weren't because we were being so loud. Okay, I guess I have to tell the story now. It wasn't really bad. It was 6 Feet Up has this habit of renting huge houses for everybody to stay at because usually so many people from the company show up at these events. So in that particular case, after the official conference party on Treasure Island, where some guy had all the machines from, what's that event in the sand?
Burning Man.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And then, tons of stuff happened. And then we took the bus back to the mainland. And then Calvin bribed the bus driver to keep going to the 60 House. And everybody unloaded there and then proceeded to, go upstairs and drink and talk. We were just harmless, mostly harmless. And I think because we're standing on the balcony, and I'm surprised the balcony didn't fall because there were so many of us. At some point, some neighbor must have called the police, and Calvin had to go downstairs to answer the door. But the rest of us were completely unaware. And I think Lawrence Rowe was passed out on the couch. And I have a photo I took of Miko lying next to Lawrence, making faces at him because Lawrence, of course, was out of it.
Mhm. Yeah, no, I wasn't there for that. I think after that party, my memory's a bit hazy until about midday the next day. I don't know where we went. I don't even remember who I was with, to be honest.
Yeah, we eventually got kicked out of the house, and then we had a whole bunch of us had to walk back to the hotel. We were staying at the Bijou Hotel, which is, anyway, it was like the motif was a cinema. And I remember somebody else in the party was like pretty wild. And yes, there was much yelling in the street at bad hours.
So I was staying in a hotel that was just sort of on the edge of Tenderloin, which at the time when I was there, it was like very much not in Tenderloin, but I think now it has encroached a little bit. It was opposite the sports bar. It's just up from where the Mikella bar is now. And I was in, so it was a hostel type affair. I was in a 4-bedroom with Florian Friesdorf, with Doman and Nates.
Oh.
And it honestly, it took us 5 days to realize that we hadn't been locking the door. Because we thought the door automatically locked. So we were coming in, like swiping our card and opening the door. The whole time it had just been completely open, and we'd been leaving like our like laptops around and phones and all sorts of stuff just like out. And no one had noticed.
There you go. Trusting people.
Well, I'm amazed we weren't robbed.
And so you're on the Plone security team.
No.
Yes, you are.
I am not. I've told you many times.
I quit believe it's like the Hotel California. Once you're on it, you know, you're.
If you look on the website, I'm specifically listed as emeritus.
That's true. I did give you that concession.
Yes,
but you're still on it.
So no, but I was at a pub for an information security DEFCON chapter thing recently, and there was a guy there from. Just remembered, I'm not allowed to say where he works. There was a guy there from large company who turned to me and said, "So, what's going on with Plone at the moment? There's been so many security issues." I was like, "How are you aware?" It's like, "Oh yeah, well we just checked because we thought we had some of your sites, but we don't anymore." But yeah, it's people have started looking now.
Recently
on the security team, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, we're getting reports, which is good because for a long time there was nothing.
Yeah. Yeah, I remember back in like 2010 when the security team was basically me and David Glick. That was fun. It was before there was much of a culture of having patches, and we released a big patch that we did it about 5 p.m. GMT. And we were about 10 minutes late uploading it because there was some problem at the last minute. So we had to repackage it. And we're just getting constant messages saying, well, why isn't it done yet? Someone was like, I've driven like an hour to be on site with a client to apply this patch. It's like, dude, you are not paying anything.
Yeah.
Chill.
Oh, man. I'm sorry.
Yeah, it's the way it was back
then. I hope it wasn't somebody I know.
I honestly can't remember who it was. But,
good for you. It's probably better to let that one go.
But we have like process and things there, so I feel like I left the team a decent legacy of tools and understanding how to do hot fixes.
What do you mean left the team?
I left the team a legacy. Yes, I am not on the team. The only thing I do on the security team now is I wait until someone's being really arsey on a beg bounty and then lay into them slightly.
You've helped with the ratings of various CVEs, right?
Yeah, that's true. But
anyway, no, I mean that is something that irritates me. I'm sure I'm not the only person, but the work of the security team it's people who are volunteers and who are putting in some cases a lot of time, not only understanding the fixes, making the fixes, and testing all the versions of Plone. I mean that's an awful lot of work.
Yeah, I remember there was one company that when we started pre-announcing security fixes, and we're going to release one next Tuesday, they said, "Oh, we have to take our customer sites down now because..." You're
just telling me that. You're just trying to rib me, aren't you? You're trying to rib me.
What? What?
I know where you're going with this. So it's not
Where
just
am I
a
going with
tank
this?
fight anymore. And now it's like you're taking out the butcher knife.
You could have pretended not to know what I was talking about, and it would have been completely solved. No one would have got it.
So the fight's in public now, man. No, I think that is in the past.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, that it all came into the idea of we didn't know how to do patching properly, and we didn't have a process. Like previously, people had just released a new version of ZopenPro and saying, "Oh, by the way, we fixed the security bug. Have at it. You better update."
Yeah, that would be bad.
It took a while for people to get used to the idea of scheduled patches, and
so that was your idea?
I think so. Might have been David Glick. It was either me or David Glick.
Oh, yeah, he's pretty sharp too. All right, let's see. What can we nag each other about? Where's that book? Somebody I know wrote a book on Python. Who might that have been?
Here you go.
Good. I love reading it in Russian, the original. So how's that doing?
Not particularly well. I mean, computer books never do so well because people don't buy them. Is the main issue. A lot of the sales come from things like conferences, and without in-person conferences, it's been quite difficult to go give talks, promote it that way.
Mm-hmm.
It's okay. I mean, it's made a profit.
Good.
It's never going to be like the biggest selling book in the world, especially because it's also not a beginner's book. So it's not the kind of thing that most people would buy. It's very much for mid-career developers. Because I thought that was a good gap in the market, and I thought the things I could add. But I mean, I don't know, something like 500 copies so far, I think.
500?
Something
Let's see
like
if we
that.
can boost that. Advanced Python programming. And I will confess, I'm not all the way through the book. I'm maybe a third of the way through, but I've learned a lot. I guess you could say it must be good because, well, or maybe I'm just that dumb.
I don't know. I think it just is good, you know.
I'll go with that.
A lot of people have told me that it's very recognizably me. That there's a lot of sort of my tone of voice and way of speaking in it.
I'll have to.
Maybe that's just because you don't understand me when I speak that you don't pick up on that.
It's just a lot of mumbling.
Yeah.
So you were working with Jazzcarta. Is that the only time you've worked with Jazzcarta?
Yeah. So I was with Jazzcarta for a couple of years, I think. So it was from when the Brexit vote happened up to about when Brexit was being implemented. So part of the logic was I thought it was sensible to have some work that was being paid in a non-pounds currency because there was a lot of uncertainty. And then aside from wanting to do some different things by the end of it, I also was a little worried because it was looking like the double taxation treaties between the UK and the US were going to stall or have a gap or something. And I did not want to be paying tax in both the US and the UK.
Right.
So, it did kind of just make sense as a prod to look for some other things. So yeah, I started looking for other jobs back in probably February of last year. Got a job offer to start in March, about a week after the lockdown started in the UK. And as soon as they did, they sent me a message saying, yeah, so no thanks.
Oh, no.
That was fun. And then by that point, I'd already sort of mentally thought, okay, well, I'm going to find a job and do a few years somewhere, that kind of thing. So I started looking again, found another company, did some interviews with them. It's going really well. They did the standard, oh, can we have a reference from you? And it was very obvious that it was about to be like, here's a contract, but we want a reference just ahead of time. So I contacted one of my former freelancing clients and said, "Oh, would you mind writing me a reference for these guys?" And they said, "Actually, yes, we would mind. Can we make a counteroffer?"
Nice.
So I sent them this on a Friday night, and on the Monday I had a job offer from the people I'd asked for a reference, and it's like, yeah, okay, I'll go for that. So I accepted that job, and I had to tell the people, it was like, yeah, you asked me to ask for a reference. Bad news. And they just completely ghosted me after that. They didn't even acknowledge my email, so I must have really pissed them off. But
Oops.
yeah. So I'm working for a user experience consultancy that's based in Bristol called Nomensa, and mainly working for one of the UK government clients. So I'm lead developer there, got a team of Python and Java devs and building stuff, which is fun.
Wow. Java.
Yeah, it's weird. So, I did a bit of Java back in like 2007, I guess, like when Android was relatively new. Messed around with Android, and I did a bit of uni, but haven't really used it since then.
Why the mix of Java and Python?
So they historically have had a thing of just outsourcing things, saying we need to build a system, we'll put out an RFP, someone will build the system, and then we'll take it. And they weren't specifying technologies. So they have a mixture of C#, Java, and Python websites. So there is a team working on the C# and a team working on the Java and Python.
Wow.
Yeah. Which is an idea. So the C# stuff is mainly internal, and the Java and Python is public facing. And the government agency I'm working with, they're called the Insolvency Service. They work on personal and company bankruptcies effectively. It's a bit more complicated than that, but if you lose your job because the company you work for has gone bankrupt, then you will fill in a form on one of these sites. If you are investigating a company that's gone bankrupt in an official capacity, you'll use another one of these sites. It's a lot of the ways that the public interacts with this agency. And they're the input points, but then there's so much stuff behind the scenes. I've been working on their fancy mail merge tool recently, which they've got hundreds and hundreds of documents that can be generated, and it pulls the data from lots of different sources, and there's workflows, and there's like 50 offices around the country and different printers and all this sort of stuff. That it's fun. It's a challenge, but yeah.
Wow. How big is this organization, the company?
The company I work for, Nomensa, is about 120 people. And the Insolvency Service, which is the government agency, I don't know, a few hundred, less than 1,000, I think.
Okay, that's pretty small for a government agency.
Well, they're a small part of a larger one. They're technically, I think, an executive agency, they're called. So like they don't have a minister and things. They're just like their own little thing, and they report to their business ministry.
I was going to try to make up a title like the Undersecretary of, I don't know, I can't even remember the ridiculous names for the guys who carry the crown, for the coronations. And
that's the Gentleman Usher of Blackrod.
Blackrod, yes. Yeah, I remember you were, I guess people in the US would say you were all hit up about Brexit. That was pretty terrible. I mean, we were following what was going on partly through you, because I was going, oh my gosh, this is terrible.
I mean, it wasn't great, I'll be honest. It's still not great. It's quite frustrating, to be honest.
But things haven't fallen apart, fortunately.
No, I mean, if anything, the pandemic has kind of muted it a bit, because there's been a lot more sort of sliding of deadlines and things. But I mean, there have been points where it's just seemed crazy. Like, I don't even know what examples to give, to be honest.
Well, I remember hearing about Britons who live in Europe and suddenly realizing that they no longer would have permission to stay where they'd been living for decades, and they would have to either uproot or try to apply for citizenship. Or
I mean, that one, that's one of the things that got smoothed out a bit in the end. But we had this problem effectively where people started off saying we should leave the European Union. And then we said, well, if we leave the European Union, there's going to be these consequences. And say, no, that's Project Fear. No one's suggesting pulling out of the European Atomic Energy Organization, for example. No one's suggesting getting rid of the university scholarships. Nobody's suggesting kicking everyone out.
What's the program in which students get to travel and stay abroad? Erasmus, yes.
Yeah. So that gives you, there's a few different variants of it, but the main one is you can travel to another member country. You can either study at university for a year or do a year in industry. Your fees are completely waived. Any university study you do transfers as though you'd done it in the same university. You get given grants, you get given extra loans, that kind of thing. Of course, we're not pulling out of this. Of course, we're not pulling out of this. No one's suggesting that. And now, every time there's another change to that, so we're going to pull out of the European Atomic Energy Commission, and everyone says, "Well, that's a terrible idea because we've still got the nukes and the nuclear waste, so we're going to have to manage it, and there's economies of scale." And they say, well, we voted for Brexit and we knew what we were voting for. And so, but at the time, you were saying definitely not this. And now you're saying we never said anything else. It is just madness. And it's just astonishing because we've got what, for the UK, is a very right-wing government. For the US is, I would say, a centrist government.
You had to get that dig in, didn't you?
Well, I mean, it's context, right? Because, I mean, equally, there were other countries in Europe where a left-wing English government would be centrist. Because are you familiar with the Overton window?
You're talking about France.
I was talking about the Nordics.
I have family in France, so I'm allowed to say that.
Yeah. So, are you familiar with the Overton window?
No.
It's the term for like the range of things that are sort of discussed like sensibly and seriously in media and politics and so on. So when someone says something really extreme, it starts to shift the Overton window over to one side, and it starts off extreme, but then it becomes more and more normal, and then extreme is more and more extreme than it used to be. So in the UK, it's considered really right wing to have single payer healthcare that's not like government.
Oh,
as into. So you've still got a single payer, but it's not the country, it's like an organization that manages it. Or to like contract out some healthcare, like contracting out x-rays to a provider who doesn't bill the end user. It's still like free at the point of access, but it's not an employee of the state doing it. It's someone who performing that duty as part of a contract. Really right-wing idea. But not so much there. And that also in England, it would be considered rather left-wing to abolish all prescription charges. But in Scotland, they're already abolished. So it's kind of the opposite. That's like it would be a right-wing policy to get rid of them again. You know, it's like there's always going to be a bit of flex, right? And I think that's the problem that we've got at the moment is that the UK's view of politics has been shifting to the right, and we've got what is traditionally a really right-wing government, and we haven't got a very effective opposition. So we are shifting more towards America as a centre of gravity rather than Europe as a centre of gravity.
Hence the loyal opposition to try to keep things balanced.
If they did a good job, but they don't. They're doing an absolutely terrible job of it.
Yeah, I got to say, I was surprised that they didn't win with the last elections.
Yeah, I think, I don't know. I am shocked that people are thinking positively of the UK's government at the moment with the handling of pandemic as well. It's just in the last couple of weeks that they've slipped into negative approval figures.
I know it's been up and down from our perspective over here.
Yeah. But
What's your vaccination rates?
Good question. I love our dashboard. So one of the things that the UK government does really well is digital. So if I look at coronavirus.data.gov.uk, we have this little dashboard with charts and things.
Mm-hmm.
So right now it is 88.3% first dose, 71.1% second dose.
Wow. In the US, it's 60% fully vaccinated.
And you can drill down by area as well. So if I put in my postcode, I can see that. So I've got my local area. The little diamond is slightly in the red, so slightly above average rates of infection. It's 74.5% fully vaccinated here, 57.2%. No, sorry, 57.2 fully vaccinated, 74.5%.
Oh, so lower.
And I can.
And why would it be lower in your area?
I mean, Delta variant was really slow to build up in this part of the country, so it might have been that other areas got more vaccine shipments, but I don't know that.
Do you have a lot of anti-vaccine sentiment in the UK?
There was apparently a protest last weekend, which is just a bit mad. I don't understand why. It was officially for vaccine passports because there's a long history of not having ID as a thing in the UK.
Yeah.
And there've been a few attempts over the years to bring in ID card systems that do a lot of tracking for people. So I think some people had the idea in their heads that we don't want vaccine passports, but really it was a smokescreen for the people who were just anti-vax, I think. We also got a long history of anti-vax here because we had Andrew Wakefield, was he? Disgraced former doctor who claimed that there was a link between vaccinations and autism.
Oh, he's British. Okay.
Yeah. So the famous study that he did was retracted because it had severe methodological and ethical problems. He was stripped of his medical title because of that, and there was literally no proof. But he's kind of the seed of that link, at least in the English-speaking world.
All right, I want to ask you. So, and I don't think maybe I did ask you a long time ago, but of course I don't remember. You spent a lot of time in Berlin.
I did. That's when I was working for Jan. So when I was working for Jan, we had a little Berlin office, and in Tonsberg there was Jorgis, there was Hanno, Gaia, there was Martijn, and Dennis Mishunov as well.
Oh, yeah.
And then in the Berlin office, we had me, Tom Lazar, and Andy Zeidler.
Oh, wow.
We sometimes had, what's his name? The guy who made Coty. Completely gone in my head.
No, wasn't he also Sentry?
I don't know. He was an Austrian guy with a really strong accent, and I couldn't understand a word he said.
This is kind of sad. We could always look it up, but wait. Okay, so while you're sifting through the background process, so Yarn was one company that founded Plone. Well, actually, it was founded by. Wait a minute. Was Leamy? Leamy was one of the founders, right?
Yes. So Yarn used to be called Plone Solutions, and it changed its name to Yarn when the Plone trademark became a thing. And Yarn, I think, is the old Norwegian word for iron. And that's what the origin of it. But yeah, they were like a Plone consulting company, effectively, based in Norway.
And the other one was Enfold Systems with Alan Runyon. So right, the two companies. And I remember thinking that was really weirdly enlightened to choose to rename the company from Plone Solutions to something devoid of the word Plone.
Yeah.
And that was when the foundation started up, and the decision was to make sure that Plone was not seen to be under the control of any one company or corporation, and there would never be one official Plone service provider.
Yeah, I think that was a really good idea, because I mean, at PyCons, you speak to someone and say, we're an open source CMS, and they say, okay, well, how many employees do you have? It's like, none, we're a community. It's like, and they don't understand. Like, it's become so normal for open source to be a subset of a commercial product.
Right.
I mean, like, even with the other big CMSs, like Drupal has Acquia. Acquia, is it?
Yeah. Yes, and WordPress is automatic.
Yeah, and even in Python world, Django CMS, there's a big one there as well, isn't there? And obviously there's Wagtail, which is Torchbox.
Right. I don't know who the Django CMS people are.
I think there's a hosting and platform as a service company.
So do you really think it was a good idea for Plone to go away from that model?
I mean, I much prefer it, because then, I mean, for me, when you're working with open source, but it's owned by a company, it's like, well, I'm just working for some company for free. Mm-hmm. And I think it's probably more successful. Like, you can be more successful when you've got a company that's betting on you, especially if it's a company that's doing very well. But for me, I think it really fit the Plone community really well to not have that. And it really helped having lots of people from different companies, and there was no hierarchy.
That's true. I don't know. I'm torn about that. I mean, how many years have I been doing Plone? 18? Something
really?
Crazy like that. Since 2003. But I don't know. I see the advantages. I mean, look at Drupal.
Yeah, I mean, I think Plone would be doing much better if it had a big company behind it. But equally, I don't think it'd have been as much fun.
I know, but I think ultimately it's because people in Plone are crazy idealists. Almost
nothing wrong with that.
Would you call yourself libertarian? Probably not.
No.
Yeah, I don't know what the word would be then. Idealists.
Socialists?
Theorists. No, it's not. It's like you said, it's a do-ocracy. That's not socialism.
Yeah.
Look at the glory you've gotten for yourself.
What glory?
That you've capitalized on.
I'm on Zoom at 9:00 at night talking to someone about cheese.
Okay, the company that you're working for now, what was the project you did for them that they loved you so much that they didn't just want to write you a reference, they wanted to write you a job offer?
Not sure. I did a lot of just coming in and fixing things when they were on fire. That's quite a common thing.
So like the Red Adair. You know who Red Adair was?
I don't know.
He was a famous firefighter. I think he put out petroleum well fires.
Okay. Yeah, that kind of thing. Contracting, I'd usually get called in when there was a project that was overdue. And then I would work on it and get some stuff done. And when you're coming into a scenario where everything has gone wrong, you're kind of automatically going to be the hero who fixes everything, or you'll just be someone who tried and failed. It's That's kind of brilliant. Win-win, really. How did you
even land yourself gigs like that? That's great. So you're like, have you seen the movie La Femme Nikita?
I haven't, no.
Oh, okay, then you're not going to get my reference, but I'm going to say it anyway.
Okay.
You're Victor the Cleaner.
I should have fake laughed at that, shouldn't I? I was like, oh yeah, you're right. Yeah,
no.
Definitely.
It's good. You should watch it.
Should, yeah, it's a classic.
Watch it in the original, just for that one reference.
Yeah,
Victor the Cleaner.
But yeah, that's the kind of stuff I was doing. And then the problem now is I've been working there long enough that I can get things wrong and fuck them up. So I've got to try not to do that.
Oops.
Yeah.
Could be time to move on. It's like the snake oil guy sneaking out of town late at night.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
All right. Were you part of the Plone RV?
No, I really wanted to be, but I didn't make it for that. That was
tell people what the Plone RV was.
Yeah, so Liz, basically, it was Liz. There was a Plone, a Python conference somewhere in California, I don't remember where. Was it in California?
It must have been, because I thought
'Cause-
she was in San Francisco, and
Yeah.
was it in Los Angeles or San Diego or something like that?
Yeah. So I think it would have been San Diego then, because she and a few other people couldn't get tickets to PyCon. So they decided to rent an RV or recreational vehicle and drive down to the conference and just sit in the car park outside, getting drunk and having kind of like a fringe event. And then I think they even were picking people up from the conference saying, let's go party in San Francisco, driving back up to another city, going out, and then driving them back to the conference.
There's even a Twitter account.
Is there a Twitter account?
I'm pretty sure. And then
I did hear once that at a PyCon, someone had tried to like explain all the different Python frameworks by graphing them. Right, so they had this chart where on the x-axis there was amount of alcohol consumed, and on the y-axis there was amount of illegal drugs consumed. And Plone was literally top right of this. We had such a reputation for a while there.
I think we should hang on to that. I mean, that might draw more attention. I mean, is there such a thing as bad attention?
I think the problem is too many people in the community are grown up now. Whereas there was a lot more younger people back then who were just doing crazy shit like that.
I mean, look how respectable you and I are.
Yeah. You are actually respectable. Except when you're not got cheese out.
I'm Canadian.
Yeah, no one's perfect.
Oh, that's good. All right. Let's see. What's do you have a topic you want to talk about?
Something. I mean, your RV thing has reminded me again of that San Francisco conference, of just the craziest, probably the craziest experience I've had with Plone. Which it's not really that much. I'm probably overselling it here, but we'd gone to this this bar after the conference, and this group of like 20 of us turns up. We go up to the bar. We go to the doorman, and the guy goes, "Sorry, guys, private party tonight." So we turn around and we tried. Never mind. Let's go back to our hotel rooms. And everyone leaves apart from me, Liz, and Florian Friesdorf. If you haven't met Florian Friesdorf, he's a character.
Worse than you.
The first time I met Florian Friesdorf, he broke his ribs while we were out drinking.
Doing what?
Trying to climb over a wall. Anyway, so everyone leaves apart from the three of us, and we turn around and say, "How about now?" And he goes, "Yeah, sure, come on in." Because the guy's problem wasn't that there was a private party, it's that there was a group of 20 nerds had just arrived all together, and he didn't want that hassle, right? So he lets us in, and we get steaming drunk at this bar. And we come out after a few hours. And just as we're coming out, there's another group have come out, and they are getting into literally this stretch limo right outside the bar. So we get in the limo as well.
Of course.
And immediately get thrown out of the limo because they weren't as drunk as us, and they noticed that there was just three completely drunk strangers in the limo with them. So Liz hails a taxi, and gets to say the immortal words, "Follow that limo." So we followed them to this club, is it North Beach, South Beach, something beach on the eastern side of San Francisco. But for literally no reason other than there was a limo, so we had to try and follow them. And it's that kind of like just nonsense that I really miss about the Plone conference. And you don't get at the more serious ones. Like you do not get that at a conference where someone is, I don't know, shilling SMS solutions or IDEs or the like.
That's funny. So are you going to come to the Belgian conference, Nemio, next year?
Probably. I like Belgium. It's close. Good beer. Yeah.
I hear they have cheese.
We can get the train.
Oh, yeah.
Quite like getting the train.
You people. Our trains here are slow. I just had Paul Rowland, going on Facebook about his wonderful high-speed train adventure from Amsterdam to the south of France. Mm-hmm. Just rubbing it in.
The last time I went to Germany, it was faster and cheaper for me to get a train than it was to fly. It's just like much better idea. You get some leg room, you get to wander around.
You get Wi-Fi, don't you?
Yeah, I mean, on the German trains, you have to pay for basically everything, but yeah, no, it's nice. Lots more room. I'd recommend it.
How many years were you in Berlin?
Just over a year, not that long.
How's your German?
Used to be good. It's terrible now. It's been about 10 years. When I went to one of the snow sprints a couple of years ago, I was sort of slowly getting it back, but very slowly. Like I could still understand people, but especially pronunciation, just it's a bit shit at first. You have to get back into the swing of things. By the way, you haven't called me out on it. I've said shit twice and you've not said a word, but you got all het up about me saying testicles.
I mean, okay, that testicles is worse.
But yeah, I mean.
So you picked up German in 1 year. That's great.
No, I'd learned it in school before and things. So.
Oh. I hate people who are so talented.
Language.
Except for bad taste in cheese. I'm gonna plug the Mars Cheese Castle. I'm gonna try to organize. You know what? I'm gonna try to organize
the what?
The
Mars Cheese Castle.
Yes.
What is that?
Oh, come on. Okay, wait. Let me go find the address.
Like Mars the planet or Mars the chocolate bar?
You'll have to find out. It's marscheese.com.
Okay. Right.
All right. So that's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna try to organize a Plone event in Wisconsin so that you can travel here and visit the Mars Cheese Castle.
Okay. I have always meant to organise one in Scotland for whiskey.
Oh, that would be wonderful. I have been meaning to visit Scotland.
Yeah. You coming to Leeds anytime soon?
I would love to.
There's a regular conference that your partner comes to, isn't there?
That's right. Yes. Well, if the next time they actually have one in person, I don't know if they've had one in person. I know her annual conference got canceled. It was going to be in the south of Spain last summer, and then that got canceled. So I'm not sure. I don't remember now if it's proceeding. Probably not this year.
Yeah, I think this year feels a bit unlikely, but I think there'll probably be some conferences around next year.
All right, we'll do it.
Plenty of
you've got to get to Sorrento.
Yeah, everyone always tells me that.
I think this year it's going to be big. It's October. People are planning. Quite a few people are saying they're going to go.
Yeah. Okay. Might be worth it. My girlfriend's Italian, so she'll never turn down a chance to go to Italy.
Ah. I thought there was like a factional thing. Like, depends on which part of Italy. Like, maybe they.
Well, she's not only Italian. She grew up in the UK, but her mom's side of the family is Italian, and her maternal grandmother lived with them, only spoke Italian, so they have a big Italian influence, but she never actually lived over there.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't think she's got the factional stuff, just the sort of the love of going over there, judging food like Italians always do.
I don't know. I'm very leery of saying anything about food, Italian food, because Ferrara.
Yeah, one of my favorite Twitter accounts is Italians mad at food, and it's just Italians reacting to people mucking up Italian food in various ways.
Well, a good plate full of. Should I say it? Plate full of spaghetti bolognese.
Ah, of course. Yeah, there's no such thing, is there? I thought you were going to say Kraft mac and cheese.
Oh, no, that's so earlier in the conversation. All right. Well, thanks, Matthew.
Yeah. Did we actually talk about anything you wanted to talk about? I'm not sure we did.
Is there anything else I wanted to insult you with? No, we'll have to save it for another time. Then you can dig up some other story.
I'll try. I just retell the same stories these days.
It's a good gig.
Yeah. Well, for me, not so much for anyone listening.
Thanks.
Cool. Well, lovely to chat to you as always.